Hello and welcome to the Big Ideas Show. Today we are talking about why can't marketers market themselves. I am joined by Luke Besant from Think Agency. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. And Aaron Taylor from 6'2". How's it going?
Very good, very good.
Good. Right, we are going to be getting on with our conversation after these titles. Guys, thank you for being on the Big Ideas Show.
No problem at all.
Yeah, really quite happy to be here.
Good, good. Well, yeah, we've been chatting about this for a while, haven't we? So it's good to get you guys.
True.
Good. That's what I like to hear. That's what all the guests say, obviously. So today we are talking about why can't marketers market themselves, and it's worth saying as a little caveat or like a bracket that we're talking, when we say marketing, we mean kind of the creative digital industries as a whole, really, aren't we?
Yes.
Because those are the sectors you guys all work in, right? And specifically this idea of kind of black box industries and that kind of unknown of any specialism, right? So before we go into the quickfire questions, can I just ask you what's of interest and why this topic for you? What interests you before we go into our full discussion?
For me, I mean, we've been in the industry for a while now, 6'2", and it was probably over the last kind of year and a half that we started realizing that the problems that people were having, you know, in 2018 were the same problems that they were having in 2010. And even though we've got better at doing what we're doing and we've got better at solving the problems we solve, people were still having issues with the fundamentals of accessing and selecting, you know, a good partner. So it made us, you know, for me, it was about just going a little bit deeper and trying to unpick what is actually going on. Yeah,
I guess there's a more fundamental thing of like communication and
exactly.
You know, if this is what we're meant to be doing, why are we not communicating?
Yeah.
Okay, good stuff.
I think there's a lack of transparency within the marketing and creative industry as a whole. And I think that you go into a situation, especially if it's sort of a B2B situation where somebody's got a small business and they're buying some marketing. If they're buying some marketing, they often get into the situation where actually they don't know the difference between two packages from two companies that look like identical quotes. You know, I will build you a website for this, I will build you that kind of thing. It's just a lack of transparency across the industry.
Okay, these are both very good starting points, which we're going to come back to very shortly. But I want to hit you both with some quickfire questions on our general theme of communication, which is for this month. So, both of you, do you remember what your first word was?
No.
There we go.
Neither do I, but that makes me think that I need to go home and call my mother and ask her why I don't know.
Okay.
See, I was supposedly there, but to say that I remember it firsthand is pure confabulation.
Yeah. Do your parents remember it?
Probably not. It was very insignificant for them, I'm sure.
Okay, question 2. What's your favourite platform of communication?
For me, other than the spoken word and a willing audience, or at least an audience that's tied to their chairs, I really like Instagram because I'm a very visual person, and I really like the kind of the community spirit that you get on Instagram, and the picture really does tell 1,000 words.
Nice. Okay. And Luke?
Favourite platform as communication? Do we mean social media predominantly then?
Yeah, well, you can interpret that question however you like.
Okay, in which case it's the fax machine.
Oh!
The facsimile.
Actually, there's quite a lot to be said for the fax machine. I like the idea of the fax machine.
I was not expecting this.
I'm not going to go into a rant about why the fax machine's fantastic, but there's big futures in sort of 3D printing and scanning one end, taking an object that is one way in another and replicating it in another place, and I think the fax machine did more of that than the sort of digital equivalents, which is email. And I think I'm just bored of email, although it's a miracle in all ways, you know.
Okay. Good answer.
But if we're going to social media, StumbleUpon, they've just closed down.
Have they? Oh, well.
There we go, that killed that one. Okay, question 3. If you had a billboard, where would you put it and what would it say? I'm going to go to Erin first because
Okay.
you've looked at these questions beforehand.
Yes.
You weren't in the room at this point,
Okay.
so I'll give you a chance to think about it.
For some reason, I think all billboards, like the best type of billboard, are those ones that you see in the films next to that highway, the 2-lane highway in the middle of a desert, 100 feet up. And I'd probably want to have something ironic, like billboard for sale or something like that. Or keep driving, you're doing fine. Just something, I don't know, ironic or positive.
Okay, no. Cool.
It would probably say, "You're not as bad as you think you are." At answering questions about billboards. It would probably be a message along those lines.
Okay.
I want to say like a cliche, like keep on going and
Chin
remain
up.
positive and chin up kind of thing. But I think a lot of people think that they're, especially in the creative industries, much worse than they think they are, and it creates like an overall pessimism around
Yeah.
around creative people.
And not bring back the fax machine.
And not
The
bring
fax
back
machine is not dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, actually, it
That
would
would
just
be-
be an Amstrad billboard in Canary Wharf. That would be it.
Yeah. That'd be brilliant. A 1970s advert for like a fax machine.
Oh,
Yeah.
amazing.
Could be yours.
Yeah. Okay. What's the most important thing for good communication?
Oh, we're doing it right now.
Yeah. Think about what you want to say before you open your mouth.
Yeah. I mean, that's a real big one. I think honesty is a huge thing. Even if you don't have the words, providing you're honest about what you're trying to say.
Yeah. And honest about not having the words.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the feeling of it, yeah.
Yeah, I think probably it's really annoying because I think that forms of communication that involve a lot of thinking are actually better than verbal communication in a lot of ways because you get the time to think out your response and rationally reply. And I think the world's, in terms of communication speed, is constantly speeding up. I think it's an actual bit of a shame because there's a bit of an art to, oh, wait a minute, I'll think about this for a day before I respond.
Yeah.
Kind of thing, because you can act very impulsively on social media or in real life, and sometimes in a business situation it's not necessarily a positive thing.
Okay, so time. Cool, like it. Okay, do you speak any other languages? And if not, what language would you like to speak?
No. I mean, practically, probably Spanish, right?
Yeah.
Sorry, that's a really vanilla answer.
That's a rich tea biscuit right there.
Yeah, I choose my languages based on their adoption rate.
Yeah.
I do speak French. I speak pub French because that's pretty much where I learned all my French.
Yeah.
But I'd really love to learn Japanese because I think it just sounds incredible.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Right. Video or podcast?
Podcast.
Video?
Okay. We're split. Biggest communication challenge? Take that how you will.
Over contemplation.
Nice.
I think I'm going to join you on that one. Overthinking and under communicating.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favourite word?
Obstreperous.
Ooh, what does that mean?
It means noisy and difficult to control.
Okay.
Like my wife.
Numen ultramicroscopic silicone volcanocondylosis. Longest word in the English dictionary.
Oh,
Excellent.
wow. And what the hell does that mean?
Well, actually, I think it's a faux word that's used to describe medical words that are ridiculous.
Okay.
I think it was like coined by somebody who was taking the mick.
But it got in the dictionary.
Yes, because it was somebody very famous, and I'm quite embarrassed that I can't think of who it was.
Is that like monstroso sesquipedaliophobia?
Yeah.
Which someone coined as being a fear of long words.
Nice. Okay, final two questions. What's the most inspiring way you like others to communicate with you?
Probably through story. A really well-crafted, well-told story, I think, engages you in a way that other forms of media can't, and other forms of communication can't.
Yeah, you're like Paul Andrews' video. He was saying the same. That was his answer as well.
Oh, really?
Stories. Yeah. Great minds.
Excellent. Yeah.
Oh wow, whatever I'm going to say now doesn't feel very good.
Sorry, you can say stories as well.
Narrative. What's the synonym for story? Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. I think there's a lot to be said for things that aren't necessarily true, but speak to the truth more than the truth actually does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well done, you saved it. You know, Copy pinched his word, but you gave a great description of it. So, yeah. Okay, and how do you like to communicate to inspire others?
I like to communicate by doing, by showing, by jumping in and getting things moving, ultimately.
Yeah, I think for me it's a case of I'm a massive show-off, and I also like to sort of jump in the way and go, hey, we can all do this, I can get involved and we can have a lovely time doing this thing, even if it's probably awful. So I think that's probably my best way to sort of inspire other people's actions is by blind enthusiasm.
It's powerful. Okay, right. Enough of the silly quickfire questions. Let's get back into our actual discussion, shall we? Which was why are marketers why is marketing as a whole as an industry so bad at marketing itself, including the creative digital industries in that? Let's talk a little bit more, shall we, about this idea of the black box industries. And because that's a term when we were discussing this beforehand that you two both came up. It's not a term I'd kind of used, but it kind of makes perfect sense. Can you describe a little bit more what that means to you both, or why that resonated with you in the overarching kind of ideas behind this discussion, the starting point really for the inspiration for this chat?
Yeah, so I mean, it comes back to what you said earlier about transparency. For me, seeing this gulf of knowledge between what we do in, say, our business and what people think we do, and what their understanding of even some of the more sort of basic aspects are, it makes me realize that we're a Turing machine almost. We're just an envelope slot into which people put their hopes and dreams, and out comes something which, again, they hope will actually work. And what happens behind the scenes is opaque. And I don't know necessarily if that's by design or if it's because when you're in a business, you can become very insular, very focused on what you do, how you do, and forget about the real thing, which is what value it brings to the people that buy it. Yeah. So that's kind of some of my thoughts around this black box industry.
And kind of looking at it from the point of view of communication, what is it that, as people, where a lot of the services that we're providing is about helping people to communicate, businesses to communicate, why is it us as an industry finds it so hard to communicate that? Like you said, yes, it's great that you're specialism and you're so focused in it, but if we're experts in it, we should be able to communicate that to the world, the value, what they're getting, why it's being done like it is, and bring some clarity.
I think we ultimately need to start considering two areas of marketing as two almost entirely separate things, and that's the creative side of marketing and the sort of campaign-driven side of marketing. And people they tend to go into the creative side of marketing to sort of B2B agencies, and they go, okay, well, I want to drive this return on investment from this creative process. Or they say, I don't really know what I want, but I want this sort of thing that does drive ROI. And it gets very confusing between those two distinct parts of the marketing industry. And so I think if you go into an agency and you say, look, or even you go into an agency and they say, you probably need a new logo, it's going to be really hard to go, you need a new logo because it's going to earn you an extra £1,000 this year. You can't calculate it. And it comes down to that with some of the technical aspects as well. Like with PPC, you can clearly go, okay, well, you're probably going to get this many clicks, and based on your current conversion rate, you're probably going to get this if we keep up the same quality. But with SEO, for instance, you can anybody who guarantees you that they can win you the #1 slot for any keyword on Google is lying, because I could win you the #1 spot right now for novelty penguin fire extinguishers, but if tomorrow Elon Musk goes, well, I'm going to launch my own brand of novelty penguin fire extinguishers, I'm not going to win it. So there are certain things that are both return on investment driven and creative driven that I guess you can't specifically say you will get this back from it. But I think obviously if you're coming into it as a business, you want to be able to go, well, I'm going to give you £1,000 and I want £2,000 back.
So is it that we kind of almost encompass too much? There's no clear boundaries of where one thing starts and one thing finishes, because like you said, you know, you have a website, for example, and there's the kind of the technical side, and then there's the creative side, and you can't really separate the two, and it's up to the provider to kind of find that balance. But it also heavily is drawn on, well, what does the business in the first place actually want? It relies on them giving the right brief and being the ones to communicate in the first place. Yeah,
it's difficult because they're two codependent things. You know, in my office we have designers and developers pretty much side by side. So when you walk into an agency, you go, oh, well, these people are literally in the same room. It's the same sort of process. They just sort of specialise that way. They just sort of specialise that way. And actually, it's a huge difference. It's chess versus cello. You know, there's a creativity and there's a logic to it, and they're two different industries. And that only really applies to digital marketing, that analogy. But
and would you say that they, even when they're sitting side by side, do they speak the same language, as it were?
I mean, it entirely depends. It depends on how used to being in the same room they are, and how used to communicating in various ways. Because obviously, you pick up by osmosis that, okay, well, maybe this cool thing that I designed a website to do wouldn't do that on mobile responsive, and you know, that kind of. I mean, that's quite. You know.
Yeah. Okay.
I think there's a couple of things in there, but one of them is this problem with expectation. So I don't think digital creatives are particularly good at setting the expectation. And part of that, for me, is because of the saturation in the market. Because the reality is that if someone comes to you and they want pay-per-click campaign, they want a website or something like that, like Luke says, you can't say, you give me £1,000, you'll get 2, 3, 4 back. You really want to signpost these things and say, hey, look, based on an analysis of your target audience, based on where you want to be as a business, based on your vision, your values, we think this is going to be the best way for you to get there, but we can't guarantee that. And how do you sell that when the next guy will say, oh yeah, I can guarantee that, I can definitely get you page 1 for it's because it's dealing with that so many, it's dealing with chaos, it's dealing with the intangibles, and people will naturally gravitate towards the simple solution, regardless of whether that solution works or not. And I think that's one of the core things that it creates a mismatch of expectation, both on part of the person buying it and on the part of the people selling it as well, because they're selling it, they're trying to win the work, rather than what they should be focusing on, which is how well can they solve this person's problem.
Which I guess in your example there, someone who comes across as confident, and yes, I can do that, doesn't necessarily mean that they will do it better. It's just they've delivered it more confidently. So the client may be, oh yeah, they're convinced, they're confident, so they can do it. The other people, they don't really know what they're doing. When really, the fact they know what they're doing is why they're saying, no, we can't guarantee, but we can try it. Because you mentioned before when we were chatting, before we turned on the cameras, about you get a quote, you can send out the same quote for something, brief for something, and get 2-3 grand quotes, and then 10-20 grand for the same thing, right? And does the client go, oh well, the person quoting hugely, they must be better, or are they a cowboy trying to rip you off? How should client, I guess we've talked about it kind of from our point of view, like in the industry, but what would you, from being in, how would you say that clients should navigate this minefield with so many variables at stake?
For me, it's about empowerment. I think that some of us in the digital creative industry need to stand up and say, hey, this is what happens when you're engaging a web design business services. This is what happens. This is how they make their money. These are the things they might be interested in. Okay, these are the things that are crucial for you as a business. This is how you start to create a mental model of it. This is how you build a schema in your head. Now, this is what you do to create that brief and take it out there and ask them these questions. Like, we should be giving them the questions that we would hate to be asked.
Yeah.
And ultimately, just like any new or burgeoning industry, at some point, someone's gonna blow the whistle on it. And people will get wise to, oh, okay, this is a cowboy, that isn't a cowboy.
Yeah.
But it depends on whether we run the news story, so whether we're the ones standing up and taking all of this valuable, useful information out to our target audiences and saying, hey, this is the test. If we don't pass it, then don't use us. It's our own test.
Yeah.
So I think it's really about just empowering people and giving them that knowledge. I think part of our black box industry is that we still think knowledge is important.
Yeah.
When it's implementation that people really need.
Yeah.
We're still trying to keep secrets when we should be sharing that information.
Especially as it gets more and more technical, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the irony there is, I think, with a lot of digital marketing agencies, is they spend a lot of time focusing on sort of content marketing. And if you were to give a content marketing to a digital marketing agency, that's what you would tell them to write about.
Yeah.
And yet, it's kind of... There's a bit of a disjunct there, because a lot of the tech industry seem to focus on, if we give away lots of knowledge products for free, someone is going to pay us to just do it for them. Kind of thing. But specifically with a smaller section of digital marketing, which is SEO and PPC and content marketing, it's kind of like, I don't want to show you how this is done. Here's the rabbit in the hat. I don't want you to know how it's done. And ultimately, it's completely arbitrary, because it's not the knowledge that needs protecting. Some of these things, they take 30 hours plus to implement some of this stuff. You don't have to. Maybe it's people's own insecurity.
That's it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that, isn't it? And I totally agree, by the way. But to play devil's advocate, what about in this industry, in many industries, because there's so much free knowledge being given away, you often get clients going, "Oh, well, I know how it works. I know what I want. I know what I need," and actually, what they want is not what they need, and then someone. Maybe because they've only been able to see the surface. And then you go, okay, yes, we can do that, and we'd love to take your money to do that thing that you think you want and you think you need, but actually this is going to be far more effective. But because they're fully armed and fully empowered, but there might be a better solution.
Yeah, I mean, I get this all the time as somebody who manages a lot of sort of SEO campaigns and stuff. People come to me and they go, I want to be number one for this list of words. Now I look at the words and I go, okay, but no one's looking for that. And here's a list of better ones, and that's the way I try and educate my clients on. Not only the first thing you've got to start off with any marketing process is the listening and finding out what are people looking for before developing the product and all that kind of thing.
Okay, so would it be having a starting? It's good that they have a starting point, because it gets them to you, and then you can educate them specifically on their particular knowledge or lack of.
Is it like going to the doctors and saying, I think it's the difference between going to the doctors and saying, I don't feel well, and going to the doctors and saying, I don't know, I need grommets, or
self-diagnosing.
I think there's a happy medium where people can be knowledgeable enough to articulate their problem and to start talking in kind of in your language. I want to be page one for X, but also go, hey, you're the expert. Am I talking sense? And sometimes you go to the GP and the GP's like, yeah, no, it's definitely that. I'll prescribe this. Off you go. You're like, great. You've saved him time and you time. But it's that getting past that little bit of knowledge stage where you learn a few keywords, no pun intended, and you think you know it all. Breaking that down, because people feel clever when they learn something new. And then going and talking to an expert can also make you feel stupid, and no one wants to feel stupid. Yeah. But it's being kind of, I guess, humble enough to go, okay, I know a bit.
Yeah. So my number one advice to my clients is be humble.
Yeah, be more humble.
But I guess it can work both ways, can't it, though, as well? And did you, I think you might have kind of hit the nail on the head maybe when you said to be able to articulate the problem. And is that maybe where the conflict is, that the person providing it wants to provide the solution? That's the fun bit, right? Going, I can solve your problems, but they have to know what their problem is first, and then everyone wins, and being able to articulate. And so is it this, we think we need to give them the solution to avoid being ripped off, but actually if we articulate our problem effectively enough, they can provide the solution.
I think you can't really define a problem too much. You can't define a problem and it be too well described. But especially in business, in B2B, this problem might be causing a loss of money. This problem might be causing a lack of confidence or some other things. They want it fixed, and if they can find a price for it, then and a solution, here, have one of these. Take 2 of these. Call me in the morning. Then people are again gonna go for that simple. They're going to go for that simple solution. There's an art to diagnosing problems, and there's an art to being able to say, this is what's going on. This is what this looks like, and these are the bits we're trying to fix. Yeah. And we think you're the person that can actually help us fix that. Yeah. Tell us what we need. Yeah.
And I think it can work on the other side as well, can't it? That the person providing, the agency, whoever's providing skills, for them to be able to help that person, that client, describe the problem is a really important skill. And having them understand the problem, the impact. I don't know, maybe is that the thing, that as going back to our original question of why can't marketers market themselves, is it because we're too busy and too quick to provide the solution, rather than helping people to really understand the problem, and then when they understand the problem, they go, now I understand why these solutions that you're offering me, and why this price and why these options are for me. But maybe do we communicate that? Do we communicate other than the generic problems that the whole of a sector might have?
Do marketers have the same problems that the people who buy their services have? Because I, for example, don't have a problem in building a website. I have all of that knowledge, all of that capability. But my clients definitely have a problem when it comes to, they can't build a website in-house. That's why they come to me. So I have the solution to a problem which I myself never experienced. Yeah. Maybe because it's so ingrained. Our website doesn't suck, but that's probably the reason why, if you're a marketer, you know how to market, you know how to, find an audience, create a message, so on and so forth. It's never been a problem that you've had for yourself. So you've done whatever you've done at the time, but maybe you've not necessarily followed your own process, or so on and so forth. It seems to be a bit of an arms race. You do something we'll just do PPC to market ourselves. Great, that's generated leads. Yeah. Then someone's paying, £1 and a penny, and they've edged ahead. It's like, okay, now we've got to pay £1 and 2 pennies to get on that top spot, where you've not actually gone back to what the fundamental challenges you're facing are, who your audience is, what they care about, where they are, you know, those sorts of
Yeah.
things. Maybe it's that.
And your bias as well to your own skills and expertise in areas, which is why you do it.
Yeah. I see loads of problems as a website could probably fix that, but you know, can it?
Yeah.
You know, it's
What do you reckon?
I
Do you
don't
agree
think
with
I
that?
have anything. I don't think I have anything different from that to say. I would just be retreading the same ground, unfortunately. But yeah, I do agree. It, as a whole, the marketing industry has a problem selling itself based on that it doesn't like giving away knowledge products and value added. Again, as a whole, I mean, there are massive exceptions out there. You know, Moz would be a huge one. You know, their entire business is based on, if we give you enough for free, eventually you're going to have to pay us something.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do we think are... What's the statements that you guys would like to make? We've kind of said this is what's going on, and what would you say if there would be one thing that we as an industry should be looking to do differently? This is our opportunity. What would you like to see done differently, or even that you yourself, or you know, in your work that you're taking on and you're trying to use to combat this?
Yeah, I think the statement that would sum this up the most would be, it's a bit of a cliche, but practice what you preach. You know, if you spend your whole time telling other people how to market stuff, perhaps, you know, take a look at yourself for more than one day a year.
That's the problem. Your own projects are always right at the bottom of the list, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. Anything to add?
I'd say keep empowering people. There's a subculture within the digital creative industry where we make little websites and moan about bad clients. If we empowered them to have more knowledge and greater control over the domain that they're now approaching, then they'd have better conversations with us, and they wouldn't be bad clients, or they wouldn't be as bad. Yeah. You know, but we've got to give... I'd
never describe a client as bad. Did you?
I know, you said it twice there, didn't it? Oh.
Not me, yeah.
There is a website called, was it Clients from Hell? But if we keep empowering, if we keep giving people the tools that they need to make sense of this voodoo that we do, then we're going to have better conversations and they're going to get better results.
Absolutely. Good stuff, guys. Right. So if people want to find out more about what you guys do, about this conversation as a whole, because I know you've been writing bits, haven't you, about kind of specifically in the web stuff. I'm sure you have. You?
No.
No? Okay. I kind of assumed, but there we go. Now you've got to.
Yeah, now I'm contractually obliged.
Yeah, you are,
exactly.
right? I like putting people on the spot. Okay. Where can people find out more info? What are your social handles?
So you can find us 62 at 62_tech. That's SIXTWO_TECH. That's on Twitter. You can find me on LinkedIn, Aaron Taylor. And you can visit our website as well, 62.tech.
Cool.
Think.studio is our website. And if you want to find me, it's Luke Besant on LinkedIn.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed, guys. Yeah, indeed, guys. Good chats.
Great way to
Thanks.
Yeah, nice. Professional. Right. See you later.